Okay, welcome back to another episode of the SLT Podcast. You have myself here, and I'm welcome back to Rena because one of the recent pods you left me on my own.
Yes.
I felt a bit abandoned.
The violinists are on holiday.
Yes. No, they're always here. Look, there we go. So myself, Ziggy Moore. You know my stuff, more education. Blah 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 blah. You've heard it all before, but we're here. We also have a Would you like to introduce yourself?
Then specialist.
Send specialist. We also have a special guest on. We've been having guest upon guest recently, but this is a really interesting guest who we've brought on. I'm gonna allow him to introduce himself, but obviously I've got to do the little stuff. So we have an ex-professional footballer on. I feel quite as a football fan. A former West Ham player who transitioned from football into mental health advocacy as a clinical consultant, counsellor, author, and passionate about emotional literacy, Mr. Kevin George.
Thank you for having me.
Hopefully we can insert the round of applause there.
Yeah. I like that, Ree. Thank you. Yeah, make it authentic.
Yeah.
Get around.
Brilliant. Really pleased to have you on board. And we're looking forward into kind of diving into your story. So, yes, ex-Premier League footballer. Obviously, as soon as you hear that, you hear the kind of the glitz and the glamour and the lights. Tell us a bit about kind of your football journey and then kind of transitioning to kind of where you are now.
Yeah, sure. So when I was at West Ham, I was a schoolboy, and then I went over to Charlton when they were in the Premier League.
Okay.
But I never made my debut. So obviously, like when I do stuff in the press, I think it's to get more attention. Yeah. They will use the Premier League. So yes, in a way, I was because I signed a professional contract to a Premier League club, but I never made my debut in the Premier League.
So this is now where it kind of gets. Tell me a bit about that. What to somebody who doesn't have great kind of footballing literacy, they'll think, oh, Premier League footballer, signed a professional contract, must be a millionaire. Yeah. What happened?
In terms of my career?
Yeah.
So I think, culturally, I think football's like an industry where at the top, even those at the top don't really understand the industry. Mm-hmm. And so when I was playing at grassroots level, I was told things that weren't actually true. And then I went into the professional football environment, again, was being told things that weren't true. So, for example, it was like, if you work hard enough, you'll be given an opportunity. Like all of these kind of general sayings. But when I got in the system, because I'm young, I couldn't articulate it. But I'm like, this doesn't feel right. So I'll give you an example. So I was at West Ham in the last year of being a schoolboy. Mm-hmm. But when you leave school, that's when it becomes serious. Because that's when you get your first contract. It's a scholarship, right? Back in the day, it was YTS. But because I went into full time at West Ham, you had like a stable Premier League club. But at the time I was playing as a striker, they had just bought Jermaine Defoe for 1.6 million. So they bought a 16-year-old in my position for 1.6 million. So I already knew, I need to go. Like I haven't got my contract secured yet anyway. Mm-hmm. So then I've gone to Charlton. But Charlton...
didn't Jermaine Defoe come up through West End or did they bring him in?
They bought him from Charlton. That's the irony. So he's come...
They bought him. He's an East London boy, yeah.
Yeah, and then I've gone to Charlton.
Okay, right.
So... and then I've gone to Charlton, but Charlton had just gone up to the Premier League.
Yes.
So I've gone from being around players like Rio Ferdinand, Di Canio, Joe Cole, Michael Carrick, where they're stable. Don't get me wrong, there's always going to be a stream of anxiety throughout football because people are always trying to take your place. Yeah. But when you just go up to the Premier League or you're challenging for the Premier League, there's always ins and outs because it's almost like to ensure survival, ensure you win another trophy. So when I've gone to Charlton, it's interesting because I'm being told, these are men, they're this, they're that. But it was just literally, they were all anxious. And every day just moaning players about wanting to leave. Like, there may have been a friendly game, they didn't play, I'm going. And so as a young boy, I couldn't articulate, but I was like, it felt wrong because it contradicted everything I was told. And so when I look into when I was playing, I should have progressed more, but there was a few reasons why I didn't. So one is because I wasn't resilient enough. So I grew up in the hood. Mm-hmm. Like, so when I played against individuals, I didn't care who you were. I'm going to get the better of you. I had to man-mark Joe Cole in the FA Youth Cup.
Who did you play for, if you don't mind me asking?
Sorry, who did I?
Is it grassroots? Who did you play for?
So locally, my first team was Moonshot.
Yeah, I thought
that was my first team. Okay. So Yep, that was like, listen, Ghetto All Stars, basically.
Yep.
This is like, when I tell people
I
where
was
I'm
thinking
from.
it was either gonna be Moonshot or 10 and B. So I was thinking, which one's it gonna be?
And I do Tenenby's like close to me. Like, my friends and their parents, like my mum is at Tenenby. What day is it today? It's Tuesday or Wednesday? Tuesday. Oh, so tomorrow, Wednesday, my mum goes to Tenenby, and my friends' parents go, and my friends' family own Tenenby.
Okay, yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? In the community.
Yeah.
So, as I was saying, so when I went to Charlton, the reason why I didn't really progress through is because, as I said, where I'm from, you're in survival mode. Yeah. So I saw the other boys struggle to play against big names, but I didn't, because that was the lifestyle I had out on the street. Like, if someone presses you, you have to be able to stand your own. However, I wasn't resilient in the other aspect of feedback from coaches.
Okay.
So what would happen is that they may say something to me, and I would follow instruction, but if they critiqued my performance, I wasn't strong enough to manage that. So I would work really hard, and you wouldn't even know on the pitch, but I would take the easy option. So I would avoid the risk.
Yeah.
And I think that's partly down to upbringing, and I see it culturally around the working class and often black boys as well, because there's that kind of disconnect with parents, you know, it's like seen and not heard and all the other stuff in that space. So then when I was in football, I didn't get what I believed I deserved, because people always think they're entitled to stuff. But then it was validated when one of the coaches actually agreed with me. So I'm thinking, I was proud. I was thinking, you shouldn't be agreeing with that. So then afterwards, I was unconsciously unwilling to invest.
Okay.
So even though I was still in football and still trying, I was like, it was like the reality of, I don't really have much control over the outcome. Whereas before, I was training like crazy. So me and my guys, I've never heard this story before. There was 4 friends. One of them was a professional footballer. We trained all of the time. So he would feed us the information. We would all go and train, to the extent where when we went into the professional environment, we were fitting in the guys that were there. And one of them signed at Chelsea from non-league at 21.
Oh, wow.
Exactly, Craig Rocastle. So his cousin's David Rocastle, played for Arsenal. My other friend, Gavin Tomlin, he went on to be at Brentford and Southend. These were boys that clubs who said they weren't good enough were dying to sign them when they were older. And they actually signed for clubs who said they wasn't good enough. So that's the context of the environment I grew up in. But then when I experienced being in that football, being a professional footballer, it was funny that I didn't have the same level of resilience, determination, and willingness to invest because of my experience.
Very interesting, and that word resilience came up a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming now this is where you've kind of taken the lessons from your early footballing career and then transitioned into kind of therapy.
Yeah, football, and also the environment I grew up in, because, you know, as I said, I grew up around guys. I grew up around gangs. So Lucian Borough, Blue Borough, Ghetto Boys, they were my neighbours, my teammates, my mum's friends' kids. These were like my good friends, still are my good friends now. And when I became a therapist, I ended up doing my placement in my area, but also the project I managed was actually in Deptford Green School. So,
wow.
So I'm...
Next to Moonshot.
Yeah, exactly.
The new Moonshot, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm basically back home. And I'm working with people who are like, I stayed at their house when their parents were kids. So it's like my friends' little sister's kids are in the school, but I'm seeing, because I saw what was going on in their home, I'm seeing the impact generations down. I'm also seeing the systemic issues whereby, you know, schools are using therapy as a way to strategically exclude kids as well.
Oh, wow.
So that there's all these other aspects, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, like, for me, it's like, you hear these generalizations as to how things are wrong, but I get to see it. And also I had a personal goal of mine is not to be the guy who got the qualifications, who was like far removed and maybe like ashamed of where they're from, but also not the one who was like, I'm relying on lived experience as well.
Yes.
So it's like marrying the two and being brave enough to do that, because I have, as I said, those are my guys. A lot of them still my friends, but I just find that a lot of times people that come from that space, it's almost like they dislocate that experience because I think they're a bit ashamed of it. And I'm like, hold on a minute, like you've got almost like a PhD there that other people can never get access to. So that's that.
Do you think that's a conscious decision though?
Yeah, because I have these conversations with a lot of my friends who go on to be teachers, and I feel as though they're ashamed of their past and they don't really bring it in. So you know what I'm like anyway. But I literally, when I'm in a workspace, I'll be like, yeah, no, this happened. Like, obviously I put it in my first book. One of my friends put a gun to another one of my friends' heads outside my house.
Oh, wow.
That's what I was around. Like these, and that's why I'm able to work in all the spaces I work in, whether it be corporations internationally, prisons, Premier League teams, because I've experienced different things.
Range, yeah.
And I can, and whether it be these boys from this area, I'm not just trying to be going in there like, yeah, you get me, man, been there, whatnot.
Man's a mentor, innit? Man's a mentor.
Yeah, I'm not.
Stop it.
But, do you know what I'm
You
saying?
don't know, sorry. I'll say.
Yeah, and also and not allow the system to place me there, because I see sometimes how they want to put me in that. And I'm like,
Yes.
what? No.
Yeah.
Just so you know, so I think I do think people, it's a conscious effort that sometimes there is that shame because maybe they don't feel like they belong as well. And again, it comes to being courageous, because in society, I do believe that we've come to a stage where we may kind of expect too much comfort. And it's almost like, oh no, but this isn't good, and people make me feel this way, and I'm like, well, no, it's a jungle out there where we all wear these personas, but no, actually, it's a battle. Looking in history, we always like praise the freedom fighters. We always look at the struggle they went through, but we don't want to go through that.
Go through the struggle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, okay, like let's do it. Let's dance.
Interesting. Okay, wonderful. So, I know you've spoken about the book you've published. What's the name? You have to name. Tell us. Tell us, because you referred to it. But please, what's the name of the book? Where can we find it before we move on to the next question?
Yeah, and by the way, sorry, I forgot to bring a copy with me. It's there in my garage. I know, I'm bad. So it's called Psychology, Inside the Hearts and Minds of Successful Professionals.
Wonderful.
And you can get it at Own It London or their website, which are my publishers.
Okay.
Foils, Waterstones, Amazon, all those places.
Okay.
And I'm literally, on the way here, I'm actually trying to finish up my second book as well.
Wonderful.
So, yeah.
Wonderful. Sorry, could you just Psychology?
Inside the Hearts and Minds of Successful Professionals.
Wonderful, wonderful, and I love the fact that it's professionals, because you've kind of got the link to professional footballers or professionals. So you could be in a city, you could, no matter what kind of frame or walk of life you're doing. If you're hoping to become a professional or you're in a professional setting, I'm assuming these are kind of key things that you'll be able to use in that.
Yeah. Like, so every chapter is on something different. So it starts on state. So looking at how your state impacts your performance.
Okay.
There's one on unconscious competence. So when I grew up in football, you always hear people say football intelligence. No one's ever said what that actually means. No one. And if you go again in the football industry at the top, they wouldn't be able to tell you. So I thought, actually, no, we need to break this down. And so, and the other chapters: culture, leadership, player premium. So this is where I look at how football benefits from gang culture and adversity. And it features 45 professional footballers from across the world, throughout generations, and 3 international coaches, a senior partner from KPMG, and a psychophysicist from the University of Montreal. So what I'm doing is, when I created the book, I wanted to make it bulletproof, because people might say, you played years ago or you wasn't at the top, but you've got people who played in Champions Leagues, World Cups, as I said, big corporations. So the senior partner from KPMG, I've got him, and I've got people that worked with Mourinho, Pep Guardiola, etc. Because what you're now seeing is leadership in and out of football.
Yes.
And seeing where things align and the contradictions, and presenting actually what real leadership looks like.
And it's interesting because you hear people speak about managers, like what managers they like, what they don't, but they're actually talking about leadership style. So like you've got Pep's leadership style. Yep. I'll say I'm more of a Mourinho type leadership style kind of guy. And it's interesting how that dynamic has kind of come into the, let's say, general lexicon of speaking about leadership. But you don't know that's what you're really speaking about. Yeah, no, that's brilliant. That's fantastic. Okay, so a lot of the stuff you do in, I'm going to psychology.
That's right.
I practiced a few times off camera. Yeah, psychology. Is that in essence that's a theory, but like the bedrock of what you do? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, independently. So because of my work, as I said, so I work in obviously education, like prisons and other places. Psychology is my moan. So again, there's a lot of problems I see in the world, and I look at psychology as, it's like, how can I create a solution? So it's like, football's the biggest sport in the world. People commit their lives to football, whether it be as a fan, whether it be as a player. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to use this as a tool to pull people in to provide change or to teach what I believe the issues are. And so that's what psychology is really for me.
Wonderful. And a lot of it deals with a lot of emotional literacy. This is a kind of, when I was going to school, that wasn't a term, emotional literacy. What, if you were going to kind of trace back where you think your emotional growth came from, what would you kind of pinpoint it where you began? You kind of touched on it earlier, but that real transitional moment where you began to employ emotional literacy in your life.
Do you know what? That's a tough one because I learned something recently about third child syndrome, right? So I'm the youngest of three, and I think being in that position was the start because you get less. There are less boundaries, so you get exposed to the realities of the world more. And I think because of that, I think it set me in a good position to develop because in a way I had to. I think football, I'd probably say one of the biggest, I'm trying to think of when it started. So I think one of the biggest was probably the levels of violence I was probably exposed to as a young boy growing up where I grew up. Because I think probably by the age of 9, 10, like I saw a lot growing up where I grew up. So I think the body is almost like, okay, you need to manage this. And I think the second layer would be the rejections in football, where it's understanding what I'm experiencing, but also not allowing it to affect how I felt, but also the achievement of my goals. So I remember, for example, we had, and I saw you guys had, I think Stephen Lawrence's brother on, right?
Yes.
What was interesting is I remember taking myself to Charlton the first time round because I went when I was really young and they said I wasn't good enough. But I went probably 2 years after Stephen Lawrence had been murdered. So Charlton's training grounds in New Eltham.
Yes.
So for me, I'm looking at, we're training in the night, it's dark.
Yeah, you're hyper vigilant.
There you go. So I'm thinking of alternative ways to and from training because even before Stephen Lawrence got murdered, like I was very aware of how racist Eltham was and I'd experienced different things anyway. So I think because of that, I acknowledged what I was feeling, but also, okay, this is when I have to compartmentalize things. I also realized that if I wasn't unable to manage certain emotions, it could also put me in danger as well because, again, the people I grew up around. So, I'll say those are the early stages.
I have a question. Do you think that people can learn emotional literacy or intelligence, or is it that more people are more adept at being in tune with how they respond to situations?
I think they can learn it. But it's going to be different for different people because if you were someone who grew up in an environment that wasn't really safe, so I had a really good foundation because with my mum, she was very consistent and I could talk to her about anything. So I was content in myself and I had like male role models around me as well, whereas my friends didn't have that. And so I think I had a strong foundation to learn and to be able to take in information, whereas I think the people around me, they were always going for low-hanging fruit. So anything that was like, I don't know, let's go and take something, for example. It was like, why would you do that? So I would think, hold on a minute. That's not right. And then two, because I had something to lose, like in terms of football. So there was all these layers for me where it's like, what are you doing? But for them, they needed anything to feel good because parents weren't really around. When parents were around, they were abusive. Like there was all this other stuff. Okay. So I had the foundation. So I think for them, they could, but they need to be taken out of the environment whereby they don't do it independently. The environment does it for them. It kind of shapes them and pushes them. This is why football was powerful. I think we don't understand the impact of football in this country in terms of what it did for a lot of boys across the 90s, because you had like boys rejected in the homes, excluded from school, and it was almost like the options were cadets, gangs, and football. And it socialized a lot of boys that became professional footballers or that went on to work in the city, became laborers, and could become functioning people in society because it provided extended boundaries that didn't reject them and also pushed them up the hierarchy for the same reasons that society rejected them. So, like, they might be in class and they may shout or do something. Teacher like, get out. Whereas in football, it's like, well done, lads. Keep talking. Or, they get angry and they barge when they do something. They're like, yeah, be more like Terry and all that. And then that boy now is thinking, oh my goodness, the part I identify with the most that gets excluded is actually praised here. Yeah. I feel amazing about myself. And then that boy doesn't become a professional footballer, but now they have the confidence to present themselves in different spaces. And especially when they're no longer like an individual misfit because they're around others around them. They're like, oh, there's more of me, and so on. Yeah,
no, I agree with you 100%. And with the kind of emergence of the Premier League at the same time, you are bombarded with heroes, for want of obviously I'm going to pick up on Ian Wright, who's from Lewisham, like Black, who were able to express themselves in ways that we maybe hadn't seen before. It was consistent. You were pumped with that week in, week out. So although in some areas I'm not an advocate of football because of literally what you described in your experience, because a lot of boys I tend to think it's the holy grail, but their understanding is it's not rosy, and it's a very treacherous kind of world that you've got to understand. So, but I do think for a lot of boys, it's the first time where they could really achieve and be appreciated.
Yeah.
I don't think that's common knowledge, though, that whole treacherous path. No, I think that a lot of young people see like the glitz and the glamour and, so-and-so earns X amount per week. They get the girls, the holiday, like it's all this like this fast lifestyle, and plus you get to do what you love doing, kicking ball, but they don't consider or see like I don't want to say the darker side, but
no, that's what it is.
The darker side,
yeah, that's what it is.
Off the pitch.
Yeah.
I've seen so many young men in there. There's a group of young men, early 20s, who I've saw. When they were 15, 16, they were told they were going to change the world. They were this Premier League club, that Premier. When you're 16, you go to school and you're in a Premier League club, well, you don't have to focus on remembering Shakespeare quotes. Don't have to memorize or say so cos and tan and all that kind of stuff, and you're being told that you're going to make it. But that transition, as Kevin highlighted, and I've seen it from 16 to about 19, 20, you do your YTS 2 years, and then after the 2 years, are you going to sign your pro contract? And after that pro contract, are you going to make it? So many fall by the wayside. And because they don't have, I was going to use the word footballing intelligence. They don't understand the structure that they're going into. They have no idea.
But to be honest with you, it's not their fault, because if we've got this system now and they don't understand it, then you have to question the system.
Yeah.
And so, Ree, when you mentioned about the dark side, the reason why I'm saying is because I've got a fascination with Carl Jung's shadow, and my actual book at the moment, The Holding Name, is linked to that. And the argument I'm presenting with the case studies is that in football, I'm presenting the dark side in terms of the individuals and the whole system, but also based on what Jung says is for health and for society to move forward, we need to integrate our shadow. And unfortunately, we are so concerned with the aesthetic of things and trying to overprotect people. So in the short term, we do that, but in the long term, it cause harm. Now, I love football for that you go into that space where actually these young boys are exposed to stress. And the good thing about it is that it's within a controlled space. And the sad part of it is, but I also like it, is that football reveals society to itself. So at the moment, everyone's talking about, oh my God, these boys, not many of them are going to make it, this, that. And then you get people making documentaries and all these people are commenting on it, and then everyone's trying to make money out of it. People don't genuinely care to provide the solution because actually, when I look at it, football is a choice. But you know what's compulsory? Education. And I've had a lot of people crying in my office because of exams. And actually, mock exams, not even exams, to the extent where I was doing workshops on exam stress. Then I had to do it across, I think, year 10 and 11. And I said to the school, look, we can't wait until it gets to this year group. What we have to do is, I think, once they walk in the door in year 7, we should teach them about anxiety and stress, because I think obviously across their life, they're going to be going through puberty, all of these things. And so that when it comes to that space that year of year 10 and mocks, they will understand, okay, this is how my anxiety plays out in my body. These are the things that work for me, my personal strategies where I can self-regulate. And I think, but we don't really get into that. What we do at the moment in football and society is like, oh my God, this is bad. So now I look good because I'm saying this, oh my God, this is terrible. These poor kids, let's take them out. I'm like, well, hold on a minute. In the real world, they are going to struggle.
Yeah.
So I think with that, the sad part, this real sad part for me is that football's becoming more like school. So whereas before, I think these boys could go into that space, unfortunately, football's now adopting a lot of the methods and also the ways that they do assessments, like school.
Give me a little bit more detail. I'm
Okay.
trying. I think I can see where you're coming from. Just kind of pin it down a bit.
So at the moment, you've got, so in 2012, you had the EPPP, which is Elite Player Performance Plan. And what football does is they put the academies into categories.
Yes.
So you've got Cat 1, Cat 2, Cat 3.
Yeah.
They assess the club based on facilities and provision. But the problem that you have is that it stigmatizes, again, like society, those who don't really have the money. So you can go to, like, for example, I worked at Manchester City and I saw loads of staff. They've got staff for everything and everybody. They've literally got, like a mini stadium on their training ground. Like, they've got everything.
Yeah.
But then I'll go and work at other clubs, like, say, Walsall in League One, where they didn't have those facilities. So I'd go to the stadium to work with the academy because they don't have the access and they've got a staff member who's doing like 3 roles. So then now it excludes them. Now
I get why you're saying it's like education. I get it.
Exactly. And then so what happens is you might think, okay, so why does a club care if they're in category 1, category 2, category 3? Because category 1 means that your teams play against each other. So now you're in the top league, but also your players are worth more. So now, if you look at Manchester United, if they go to a Leyton Orient and say, oh, we like that kid, he plays for England, and we see it as the best prospect, especially due to Brexit, because they can't take players from abroad anymore. So now everyone's scouring to get the best English talent. Leyton Orient can say, well, he plays for England, he's tipped to be the best, we've rated at $500,000. But because they're in Cat 3, actually, no, the ceiling is, say, $100,000, basically. So now Man United are like, oh, that's nothing. We dropped that on the way to the shops and don't bother to pick it up. So then, thanks very much. And so unfortunately now the poorer clubs are struggling and almost like trying to block up these holes, but the water's still coming in.
This feels so much like education. Sorry.
Yeah, and this is the point. And so, and also, so when I was coming through, I would say this. I've worked in different places. The place that most resembles professional football is prison. When I worked in prison, I was like, this is so much like football for so many reasons, by the way, so many. But also, one of the guys like who walked into my class was a guy at my club. He was a few years younger than me. And so what I'm trying to get
in the prison?
Yeah, in the prison.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there's listen, when you're in football, and I say this, and I did this in the player premium chapter when I talk about football benefiting from adversity, because they want that aggression and all that stuff. Those boys get like taken in at academy level, but it doesn't keep them there. So the ones who stay there are the ones who come from structured homes. Okay, so usually 2-parent homes, they get that level of support. It's changed now because football's slowly becoming middle class sport. But so it just
both on and off the field,
But what's happened, and reason why I'm saying about football becoming more like education and how it's kind of not being able to fulfill the role it did in boys' lives back in the day was because, again, people didn't talk about the things that it did for a lot of boys. So you had boys who were super talented who were at risk at different levels. And I'm going to tell you an example in a minute. So what the clubs would do is they would move the boy out of his area. I spoke with a club, they moved the family. But there's certain things you can't do now because safeguarding has gone on drugs at the moment. So it's just certain things you couldn't do where you could intervene and stuff. Whereas they saved a lot of lives, a lot. But yeah, like there are boys caught up in all sorts, sorts.
Yeah. The more you're speaking, the more it's I'm kind of remembering that story over there. Yeah, no, 100%. So, all right, so kind of reflecting on kind of what we've discussed, and obviously we've got the book currently, the upcoming book. What would the legacy of psychology? What would you want it to be? What would you like to embed as the legacy of psychology?
I would want, and tell you why it's a difficult one actually, is because I created something and I had to pause it. But I think the long-term goal is for football to continue to serve as an alternative intervention, which you what it used to do, but I think it's slowly changing. So what I want it to be a space where boys could go and get extended boundaries and also get access to therapeutic support as well, get access to mentorship, also help in the way that they view the world or based on their interests. So, for example, with psychology, when I first started, it was, psychoeducation, funneling these boys into therapy, but I'd also get players to come and share their experiences. And not just the case of, yeah, guys, you know what, this is what I went through too, is the players will share their experiences and I will then say, so guys, what is this a reflection of? Because we would have done work over the weeks. So then they'll say, okay, yeah, that's neglect. And then because he went through neglect, he was doing this as a coping strategy. So it was a case of not me just standing in a classroom with them saying, guys, listen, mental health, depression,
Thinking it. Yeah.
They're thinking, this guy's, he's achieved what I wanted to achieve, but he's also experienced something that I've experienced in a different way. But this is the ways that he was able to cope. But actually, there needs to be a time where you don't cope anymore. You actually start healing. And that could be a stage, that could be something that's quite exposing, but actually he done it. Or maybe he didn't do it. Because again, there's some players where their life got messed up and there was no success at the end of it.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, because it's not always that way. I think if you always get told that story, you're going to feel like a failure, because you're going to feel like, why can't I get over it? So it's like, okay, that player then says, I'm going through it now. This is what I'm going through now, but these are things that didn't work for me. So if you're going through stuff and it doesn't work, don't worry. Like, I'm going through it now. This is the positive now that I'm going. I can see the light, but I went through all these things that didn't work. I'm going through this, but I'm not through the end of the tunnel yet.
Okay. All right. Okay. Brilliant. All right. I am going to. Do you have any more questions, Miss Reed? Because I think we've spoken about legacy. So.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting as a bystander, watching football, that, football, I guess, is the only space where you will visibly see men cry if their team don't get through. But outside of that space, outside of that space, it's frowned upon. Precisely, there's like this whole stigma of, men showing their emotions, and I just wonder what could be done more so to support young players, because when you were saying that all of the players when you were younger felt anxiety, like, did they know that it was anxiety?
No, they didn't know, but it's so funny. So no, players don't talk about it, but they don't know it's anxiety. So here's a one joke that happens in every changing room, and I find it so interesting because the premise of the joke is based upon anxiety, and no one talks about it because we didn't know what it was, right? So what happens is pre-season. So that's an anxious time anyway, because that's when you do the most difficult training.
Yeah.
It's madness. Like, no one ain't trained as hard as a professional footballer when it comes to preseason. I'm telling you, it's crazy. So anyway, what happens is a player would walk into the change room and he would describe, so he would go into role play. So he would describe a layout of the worst run. So he'd be like, oh man, the gaffer's laid out the cones for, let's call this run the treadmill. He's laid out the cone for the treadmill. And then you'll get some players, what? No! And they start moaning, and then everyone just starts busting up, because we all know that that's what we're afraid of. So we know that's going to be a trigger if we say that. And that's the anxiety. So every day you're worried about it. So sometimes, like, if the manager walked in, he might say, okay, guys, bring your trainers. You're like, oh, man, because that means running. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's these things. But then obviously you've got the performance anxiety, whereby, and this is something that I experienced, where I would take the easy option all the time. So I'll become more functional, which, to be honest with you, is football today, which is why I don't really watch it as much. It's boring. It's not creative. There's not much risk. So that's a window into speaking to these boys who would otherwise not be interested, because boys prefer solutions. And then there's this whole movement around men's mental health. It's like, guys, speak. And yes, it's good, but actually, they just want a solution. And this is why with psychology, I've moved towards more alternative interventions, i.e. providing educational and football opportunities. Because if you've got something to orientate towards, it's like, okay, do you know what? I've got something to lose. And I can think long term. If my life's hell, I can't afford to think long term. I don't know if I'm going to live.
Yeah.
So I remember coming back home from training and I've got friends being arrested on the floor because I could think, and I'm like, I've got my goal where they had nothing. They're too busy trying to get status. And as I said, these illegal or unhealthy I'm getting tongue twisted now, dopaminergic activities. And I just think, do you know what? If you can give them something, just give it to them. Like, give them realistic opportunities.
Real opportunities. No, yeah, you've said a lot of stuff that resonates with me. So, yes, Kevin, really appreciate your candid insight into just yourself, but just kind of your philosophies. And it's refreshing because oftentimes, people censor themselves because of social media, so on and so forth. But I feel we've got real insight into the work you do and what you do. So thank you very, very much for coming on to the SLT podcast. More importantly, how do we contact you? If somebody has seen this and said, listen, we need him in our institution, how do we contact you?
Do you know what? It's my website's kevingeorge.online and there's a contact section there. And I don't even know my social media now. But if you type in
no book, no social, no Kevin, no.
I know. You know what? Let me go on there. I'm not really online like that. I'll be honest.
Are you on LinkedIn?
I am. So my LinkedIn got hacked. I only got access to it the other day.
Okay, so he's back up. So did mine. I remember. Yeah. So he's on LinkedIn.
So I'm on LinkedIn, Kevin George. Wait.
LinkedIn gets hacked.
And by the way, here's something funny. The hacker changed my picture to like a white lady with blonde hair and kept the name, started interacting with people, and people are holding big old conversations with a woman called Kevin George. I'm like, what? But anyway, my Instagram is I am Kevin George. I'm mainly on there. The other stuff.
Instagram, I am Kevin.
LinkedIn, LinkedIn and Instagram.
I am Kevin George. Brilliant. All right, so you know where if you want to contact him. But brilliant. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care.